Hello everyone, this is Aaditya Mehta and you are listening to podcast on personality development. Most of us wants to live a life with no tension, explore the world, explore cultures, explore different adventures and follow our passion. But how much of us are really planning to achieve that lifestyle? I know, right? It's difficult. But a proper planning can always help you. And today, to guide us with this particular thing, we have an expert, and she is a dynamic entrepreneur fueled by a blend of science and creativity. A unique combination, right? Interesting thing is that she has another combination, that is being an entrepreneur. She is also a songwriter and a singer. Hopefully, we are going to listen some of her originals today. She might sing live today. I don't know. I'll request her. And she is also an aspiring person who wants to inspire people to follow their passion and live a happy life. So hold on to your excitement, guys, because intro music is going to play. Till the time, I'll go get her on this show. In the meanwhile, what you can do is click on the link in the description to join our WhatsApp community, because you can now ask questions to the upcoming experts of this podcast. It's amazing, right? Also, you get free tips, tricks, stories, which I share on that community. So, what are you waiting for? Intro music is going to play now. Click on the link, join the community, and here we go. Hello, and welcome back to today's episode, where we have an entrepreneur who can write songs and sing them, and she is an amazing person. Please allow me to welcome a person who aspires to inspire others to pursue their passions, reaching for the stars with her life experience as a guide. So, yes, here she is, Aliki Samone. Hey, Aliki, what's up? How are you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm happy to be here, share some stories and info with you all, and just kind of had a good conversation about life, and the passions that we all have and want to explore.
Wonderful. Although, Alaki, you have really mentioned this to me while we had a pre-recording session, that you have been to many podcasts. But tell me honestly, has there been a wonderful introduction like this one?
Honestly, I was sitting here listening to it and I thought, this has got to be the most interesting introduction I've heard. I love the WhatsApp community. Everyone needs to get on that. That sounds amazing. Let's just continue this vibe of bringing people the tips and tricks they need so we can all be in this together, right? To move forward and invite hopefully guests like myself to come in here and do some chats. But that's you people should be looking up to you on that for sure
Of
on
course,
podcasts.
people should be looking up at the experts who are sharing values, so that uh, the values can be added in the minds of the learners, and further they can become the value additioner in different people's life. So it doesn't matter whether it's me, you, or any other expert. I always invite expert to share their wisdom on the community. So yeah, you are always welcome on that, and thank you so much for this wonderful gesture of yours. I normally just joke around for with the experts that how did they like and all these things, but that was really a kind gesture, a really nice words which you spoke, so thank you so much for that. However, Alakai, what I gave as an introduction, it just seems like a trailer for for a person who has done a lot of things in her life. So I would really love if you can give a detailed, brief introduction about yourself to the listeners.
Absolutely. So I'm Aliki Samone. I've done a various amount of things through my life. We all kind of have our different stories and how we grew up and evolved. I'll say that I'm someone who, at a very young age, I was singing and doing music, but also really excelling in math and sciences. And I got to this point when I got into high school where it was, what should I do? Should I pursue my passions in music or should I go into engineering or apply sciences? That's a total left brain, right brain conflict. I feel
Hmm.
very blessed that I can have both sides. And I've kind of spent my whole life figuring out how to interweave those two pieces of me through all of my decisions and in my constant quest to get, fulfillment in what I want in life. So I did go engineering. And I studied aerospace engineering, went into industry, got a corporate job, and designed spacecraft and learned so much, going through that part of my career. But in the meantime, I made sure to start writing music and pursuing art and learning how to make murals. And, I had kind of like these side personal life projects outside of work that I made sure to keep building together. But when you have that, or if you're the type of person who, I don't know, I feel like I'm always just like, what's the next thing? What am I striving for? Or, you know, one specific example, I really want to record my album. I've spent all these years, building music on the side. How do I make that more of my life? How do I be successful at work, but have more fulfillment outside of work? And that how just kept becoming bigger.
Hmm.
And I got into my early to mid 20s and I said, if I don't figure out how, I'm never going to get there. I need a plan. I didn't know at the time that my whole life story was kind of building up all of this experience and knowledge into figuring out how to make that plan. But I did. And I struggled through it. I I didn't walk into creating a life plan saying, you know what I'm going to do in 10 years? I'm going to write it all down in a book and share with the world. Like that was never the plan. But over the last 10 plus years, I've been building up techniques and developing a way to try to make a plan to live a more fulfilling life and to achieve those goals, to look at success differently and figure out how to get there. And through that, I've written a book and it's called Conquer Your Summit: How to Build a 5-Year Plan and Live Your Best Life. So you can get that on pretty much any platform where you find books, whatever that might be, whether it's online or Amazon or other various areas, um, other various areas. Anyway, the point is it was really great to take all of this interesting life intricacies, the desire for fulfillment, and bring my story to life in a way that could help others, which is part of what I want to feel my life purpose to be, is to reach out and help others in whatever way I can. Because that's all we could do, right? We should all just be more in the community and want to live more life. So that's my story and why I'm here right now talking to you. Is how can I share some of my message and hopefully help any of you who want to listen to increase your fulfillment.
Well, that's fantabulous, I would say. I mean, I can completely say this that this has by far has been the greatest life story I've ever heard in less than 2 minutes. So that's really fantabulous, and I loved it a lot. However, I do have questions on that, and you see, I normally ask questions, and that's kind of my job as well, being a podcast host. So I do ask a lot of questions. But the very first thing which I would like to ask is, being an aerospace designer, there is a huge amount of workload which people have, especially in that area. And everything has to be precisely right as well, because you're creating a design and then it goes into engineering as well. So the designs has to be really precise. Okay. Even I would say by millimeter, it has to be precise as far as I know. I might be wrong over here, but maybe I'm
No,
right
you're
as well.
totally right. You're
Yeah,
totally right.
exactly. Right. Thank you so much for correcting that. However, being in the industry where you have to make sure that you are working to the perfection, which is going to take long hours of yours. And even though when you are into that kind of industry, you really made sure that you fulfill your personal goals in lives as well, which is truly amazing. But people would like to know, how did you do that? The reason why I'm asking this question is because in India, especially, people do travel for more than 2 hours in a day to commute to their office. And after that, there is like a 9-10 hour job. And when they return home, they are completely exhausted. Okay. Like they don't have any energy left in their body, and then they don't actually go for personal goals, but all they wish is to get some good amount of sleep. So how did you do it, and what tips or what insights you would like to give to the people who are in these kind of work culture and environment?
Absolutely. So, you know, you're 100% right. Uh, Being in aerospace, it was a lot of work. I had a lot of very, very long days. I can relate with the amount of time it takes to one, get on long commutes, two, have, a job that can be very demanding, and three, the exhaustion that comes from going through all of that every day, or, having extra jobs on top of that. It's very hard. And
Mm,
100% you're exhausted. How do you build energy to build past that? And my answer to that is it's and it's I know it's not what people it's about planning. And you
mm,
might not want to hear that, but think about it this way for a second.
mhm,
You know the bounds of your I guess the constraints of what you can do in your plan or in your week or in your day. And it doesn't mean that every single day I got home and was like, okay, what am I going to do for personal growth today? How am I going to engage with my community today? It doesn't work like that. What I had to learn, and that's why I was struggling. I was like, so frustrated. I'm not making progress on recording my album. I'm not making progress on going out and doing gigs for music, or I haven't made art recently. And I would just get so frustrated because that's that like happiness, passion, fulfillment that we're looking for, when the reality is we have so many hours of sleeping and working that we're, striving to just get through. And I got to that how moment. How do I do this? And I realized I needed to visualize. I needed to take time away. So I did have to say, all right, I've got to find a 4 hour block, a half day, a one day, whatever you can spare. Separate myself away from that day to day churn. And I escaped. I actually, I got in my car and I went somewhere. I spent in my case, it was a weekend, but I spent time away from my home saying this time, I call it the summit method in my book. And it's all about this summit event. This time is where you separate yourself from the hustle and bustle of life, and you look at life high level all the way to the details. And the high level is setting your goals, right? I wanted to do what did I want to do in music? What did I want to do for health? What did I want in spirituality? What did I want for my family? So, I would go through personal growth, what financial freedom, what financial goals I had, what goals did I have for my career, and what goals did I have for my community, my family, my friends, the people I'm surrounded by at a high level, at a 5 year level. What are some big thoughts I had for myself? And I opened up a spreadsheet and I kind of laid it out. I didn't have all the templates of the summit method at the
mhm,
time. As I said, it took 10 years to develop kind of what I really was doing. But
yeah,
the advice I have is you have to, in whatever format you need, I have templates for it on my website and in my book, but you know, whatever template you need to just look at 5 years and say, what would I like to do or accomplish in there? Are there certain mini goals? Let's say you, I'll use myself as an example. I'm trying to record an album and release, a music album. That's a big goal. What are the mini steps that I need to get there? Well, I need to write music. I need to record music. I need to understand how to publish it. I need to learn about marketing so I start listing out all the mini goals or the sub steps to reach that higher level ambiguous passion. We all have different passions. And then I said, okay, how do I piece in those mini goals over time? What do I want to do in year 1? What do I want to do in year 2, year 3, etc. And then that's the 5-year plan. That's the high level 5-year plan. But that's not good enough. And it's not going to answer your main question, which is when you're driving yourself to the ground every day, how do you just look at some high level 5-year plan and make progress? Well, you have to then funnel that down a bit into a 2-year action plan. And you take that 2-year plan and you actually look at each month. So now you're looking at, all 24 months and you're saying, okay, based on the 5-year plan, based on these larger mini goals that I've, plugged in, what should I do in this 2 years, the now and 2 years forward, each month? What's an activity or what's an even smaller sub-step goal that I could be working towards in month 1, in January, in February, in March? And sometimes you might be working towards the same thing. It might be, I'm going to write my first song. And I'm gonna write my first song for 5 months. I don't know. I'm making this up, but you basically each month you say, where am I inserting that mini step? And you're being realistic because you have either a demanding job or a family to take care of or things that you need to do in your life. We all can't just go frolicking through the hills and
Yeah.
Have fun all the time as much as we want to.
True.
And so you funnel into that 2-year plan. And now you have one thing, that one kind of thought goal per month that you're looking at. And that is what can help you when you are, going through days like the day that you described. Because when you do have 5 minutes or 2 hours, in a commute or whatever it might be, and you have some time to spare, the question is, are you going to look at that plan and see visualization like, wow, if I just make progress on this one thing this month, I am now making a step closer to the higher level plan. That's a lot easier to chew on. That's a lot easier to funnel in that one step when you have such a busy life and you're tired and you're trying to just, make it in certain ways. Don't make it be about looking up at the sky at this huge goal or where you want to be in life and let it be a burden on your soul. Break it down into tiny pieces that are bite-sized. Look at it at a month level and say, what am I doing this month? And when you get in the car, ask yourself, what am I doing today? Or you get on the train or you get on whatever you're doing each day. What am I going to do today that's maybe a micro step towards there? And maybe you don't make a micro step today. That is okay, right? We have to forgive ourselves a little bit and just do our best to visually check in and try to do one thing towards that goal. Hopefully that helps. That's, you just got to make sure you look high level, break it down, and have tiny bite-sized pieces, and you will get there. Because you'll start getting excited about the plan, and then you can, accelerate the plan. But that's my advice.
Wow, that's really nicely explained. I can really relate to that, honestly, because even I go to different cafes and, somewhere around, at least not at my home, but on weekends I'll go outside and I'll be writing my book, which I'm writing right now. Hopefully I'll complete it. But yeah, I mean that's what I have been doing as well. So that's completely relatable as well. And since I am from the IT industry and I can completely understand that one project needs to be divided into different pieces so that you can actually achieve those smaller goals very easily. And in in basically our industry, it is also known as the waterfall model, where it's kind of the software development life cycle where we actually divide the task and make it into different steps, which is known as a waterfall model. And then there are different kind of models, but I really relate, like the example which you gave really relates with the waterfall model. Like, go step by step, complete each goal, a smaller ones, and in the meantime, in let's say 5 years, you might not even realize how easy that was because you were only focusing on the smaller goals, and that got achieved, and later on the bigger goal actually got achieved very easily. I think that's what I kind of got from what you answered. You can always correct me if I'm somewhere misjudging your answer, or if somewhere I'm misleading the listeners uh, by being misleaded
No, no,
myself.
no. That's
So,
perfect. That's perfect.
yeah, thank you so much. However, I have one follow-up question over here. Okay, you said that it's fine to forgive yourself, but how many times do we need to forgive ourselves? Like, that's a really important question as well. Because you see, like, as human beings, okay, we tend to procrastinate things which is not immediately urgent to us. Okay, so we know what is immediately urgent to us, and that is feeding our family, or the financial goals which we have. We want to earn money. We want to make sure that we give full performance in our office, and all these things. These are kind of immediate requirements which we have in our lives. Those things which are not the immediate requirements, we tend to procrastinate that as well. So the question would be, how many times should we forgive ourselves? And if we are forgiving ourselves and not taking those micro steps very frequently, what should we actually do so that we can take those steps literally very frequently throughout the week or throughout the month?
I love this question. So, how many times should you forgive yourself? Well, the answer I have for this, you might not like it, but it's perfect because it dives so deep into humans and kind of like how we work, right? So we are our minds, and our minds are only ours, as in I can't read your mind. And so we escape in our minds so easily. And I talk about the mind here because I think the mind is so integral in this concept of forgiving yourself or letting yourself off the hook, or because it's all part of an internal conversation you're having, with yourself and your mind. And so, while the mind is this beautiful sandbox that we need that mind in order to create the beautiful like 5-year plan and the high level goals and what ideas we have as the many steps to get there. We really need that beautiful mind and everything that comes to, your thoughts.
Mm.
But your mind can also be an enemy. So what
Yeah.
happens is it's so easy for us to create excuses or, you know, figure out ways that we can forgive ourselves over and over and over again because the mind will allow it. So when you ask the question of, well, wait, how many times can we forgive ourselves? That's when I love to bring in my, one of my best friends in the planning phases that I use in my book, which is execution habits. And
Mm.
it's about visualization. So let me give a really quick example as to why visualization is my answer to, how many times we can forgive ourselves. But when you look at data, right, data can't lie to you. I mean, if it's wrong data, it's lying to you. But for the case of this example,
Yeah.
data usually is something that is recorded and it's factual.
Hmm.
So when you have a high level goal or a month that funnels to a monthly goal and down to what am I trying to do today, that's actually perfect for data. I like to put on a paper on my wall, on my nightstand, the mirror in the bathroom, wherever it might be, that reminds me that this is the vision you came up with, Aliki. This is the goal that you have this month. Remember? Are you working towards this goal? And, I can put a little notch mark on it if it's on the wall with a pen or something that's like, yeah, today I did a little bit towards my goal. And you start seeing that data pile up. And you realize at the end of the month, did how many notch marks did I have? Did I have 1, 2, 5, 30? And all of a sudden you start realizing and seeing data before you. And I'm not saying you have to go and be as diligent as like putting boxes on the wall. Don't get me wrong. You got to do what
Mhm.
makes sense for you. But the point is by having visual indicators, reminding yourself to look at what your fulfillment really means, to remind yourself that when you walk out that door, you may be working towards your financial freedom because you're going to your job. You may be working towards, your career or moving up in a way that you or laterally in a way you want to go because that's part of your career fulfillment. But that vision board on your wall or a journal that you open every morning, it's to remind you of the data points on are you actually making progress? What are you going to make progress on? And that is how you have a course correction with that mind of yours, because you will then know how many times did you forgive yourself? Oh, I'm starting to see, huh, I have managed to find excuses or forgive myself 5 times this week, 5 times this month. Or, if putting a number to it is too difficult, you'll at least get a sense of how many times. And so while I don't have an exact number for you as an answer,
Hmm.
my answer is look at the data of what you actually are doing and what you actually want and remind yourself of the plan regularly. And that is what will help you know if you are forgiving yourself too much.
Of course, yeah. That's an amazing technique which you explained over there, and well, listeners can't see, but I actually wrote it down as well, so that it literally reminds me. So it's my habit that I write down each and everything which feels good to me. And audience, I say this to you every time when you listen to this podcast. Listen to it very intentionally. Make sure that you're sitting with a book and a pen or a notepad in your mobile phone and write down some amazing points which is being shared by the guest. In this case, it's Alakai. So, she's sharing some amazing wisdom. Make sure to note it down. I'm sure it's going to worthwhile. However, if you forget, you can always listen to this episode again and again, which will definitely make me happy because my listeners' numbers are going definitely up. So you can do that, or you can write it down. I would really want if you write it down. That's something which always helps for me. And I really feel that, and I really believe that it will help. It will be a huge help to you as well. Alika, this is great. Having visual indicators to make sure that you get a factual data, and from that you can really analyze and remind yourself what you want to achieve, and that's really an amazing way. Whenever you wake up, basically, when you look at that, you always remind yourself that this is what I want to achieve, and that's really amazing. However, I do have one follow-up question again, okay? And that would be, there are many people who might have procrastinated enough till the level that they might have given up on their passion. For example, let's say from last 1 month, I'm trying to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning when I don't have my recording sessions, of course, right? So every day I try to wake up at 5 a.m. because it gives me that extra time of the day which I want. So it gives me time to exercise. It gives me time to write a story for my book. It gives me good thoughts in the morning. But somehow from past 1 month I am struggling. Okay. And just for an example, I'm on the edge to give up. Okay. And like this, there are many people who might have tried a lot, but they have given up until now, saying to themselves that it's not going to happen. Let's not waste time. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not able to do it. So, any advice for them which you would like to highlight over here?
Sure. First of all, I'm really excited about your book. As an author, I'm excited that you're working on that goal and that progress. So I definitely
Thank
look
you.
forward to hearing about it when you do finish that project.
Sure. Sure.
As far as, getting to the point of breaking, let's say on a goal or an idea that you have for yourself, one of the things people say to me often is a 5-year plan. Like, who makes 5-year plans? And I can't think about what I'm doing tomorrow, let alone 5 years from now. And there's a lot of people who don't believe in the concept of sitting down and making a 5-year plan. And the reason usually is because people are like, well, I I change too often, or I don't want to build something that I'm held to, or, there's the world is just so dynamic, and everything that we get fed and social media and with our communities, it all bundles up in so many ways. And my answer to that is always, hold on.
Hmm.
When I say build a 5-year plan, figure out your dreams, your goals, funnel that down into mini steps, and build those mini steps into this, monthly cadence where you're going to do quarterly check-ins and just make sure you know what you're doing. I'm not saying that because it's set in stone. And I think a lot of society has really pushed us for so many years to say we shall be this or we need to be X, Y, and Z. And it brings this mentality of definite
Hmm.
to our thoughts. And I built the summit method in a way that it's designed to change, to evolve, to move with the ebb and flow of what either life throws at you or you find yourself capable of being or doing. So I built in these 3-month check-ins where you may be funneling down your passions and what you want to do. And by the way, when I say passion, that's passion for yourself, your family, your job, your financial outlook. You got to look at all 4 of those things. I'm not just talking, personal growth passions. I mean it all, like your
Hmm.
life passions, your full fulfillment.
Hmm.
But when you look at those and you funnel them down, you have to every 3 months open up the plan, look at your detailed 5-year outlook, look at what you wrote in your 2-year action plan, look at what you have been doing, and ask yourself, does this still align with where I want to go and what I want to do? When you go through 30 days of saying, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to, seize the day and do great things, but you went through your own check-in. You got to a certain point where you said, do I want to continue doing this goal or this item?
Hmm.
Yes, no. Why? And I go back to data. I go back to recording. I love journaling. I love making sure that you put that beautiful mind of yours to work and you say, why? What are some of the root cause thoughts of this? So, the answer to your question is I encourage people actually to, I don't want to say give up. That's not the word I'm trying to say, but I encourage people to relook at some of the things they're trying to do
Hmm.
in the spirit of checking in the spirit of saying, I had this goal to get up at 5 a.m. and I've done it most of the time, or I've done it for 30 days. I just don't think I could do it anymore. Why? Why is it? What are some of the barriers that are coming up for you on why you're losing that passion, why you can't figure out how to pursue that one goal or that one, item you're trying to get towards. And
Hmm.
if you start doing some of that like root cause analysis, you may find one of two things. You may find one, you figured out your barrier and now you just need to go and remove that barrier, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden you can go back to trying to pursue getting up at 5 a.m. every day because you removed the barrier, whatever that was. Or
Hmm.
two, you really come to a holistic mental space where you realize, you know, maybe this goal that I had isn't for me anymore. And and that's okay. Going back to the whole having mental clarity and being okay to say, it's okay to let things go, that can also apply here. And when you let go of certain items in your plan or you change them, you modify them into a new path, into a new concept. But again, you got to make sure you're at least looking at the data, looking at root cause, checking in, because you don't want to do that too many times, right? You don't want that to become a cyclical nature where you just continue to maybe not follow through on certain items. That's something that you would track, see, and then be like, I need to do another root cause analysis and figure out why, you would be having that happen to you. So that's what I would say is,
Well, wonderfully said. I completely get that, like asking good questions to yourself and always making sure to let yourself know about what was the reason that you had took that plan. I believe these two questions are really important questions to ask yourself. And just now, when you were saying, I really thought of it, and there were many possible reasons which came to my mind as well. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. And I'm sure people who are listening to this are going to get a lot of answers which they wouldn't like it, but it's fine, because most of the things which doesn't feel tasty to your tongue is always healthy for your body, right? Because like if you eat medicines, that's not tasty, but it helps your body, right? You eat vegetables and salads, okay? That's not tasty to your tongue, but it's tasty for your body, right? So most of the things which are bitter, it's definitely good for your body. And the things, listeners, which you have found out after asking these questions to yourself, they might be bitter, but they are definitely good for your development. So make sure to take it in a positive way and try to improve on that. That's what my suggestion would be. So make sure to do that and do let me know in the community, or you can let me know on my Instagram or via email. Everything is available in the description. Please do let me know. And you can also let Aliki know, okay, like what has been the plan and how is it going for you? And I'm pretty sure Alika is going to be thrilled after listening to you. But make sure to inform her that you have listened to her on Personality Development Podcast, right? So, Alika, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm really loving it right now. You see, for the entire episode, I was smiling ear to ear listening to you. So it's really amazing to have an expert on the show who talks more practically rather than just motivating. So I really loved this conversation. However, since we are at the edge of ending this episode, I will have this one request. But before that one request, I would also ask one question, which is being asked by a community member. Okay. And her name is Ishita, and she asked this question. She is asking this question that she is preparing for an examination. She hasn't put the examination name, like what examination she is preparing for, but she is preparing for an examination which is from the creative field, and she is also doing engineering. Okay, this is interesting. So, finding time for this creative exam feels very difficult because I have been more into the engineering examination. So, what should I be doing for this creative exam? Because I am more interested towards it and I want to make sure that I excel in both the things, not in only one thing.
All right. So this is a great question. And let's dive into it a little bit here. In life, it's important to know when you want to open doors, close doors, or just keep doors, flowing. They're already open. You want to keep them open, right? And this is an example that makes me think of that concept, which is, this exam sounds really important for you to keep a door open. You have this doorway into this creative aspect, and the exam and the prep for that exam is allowing you to keep going down that hallway and having that open. It also sounds like you've got another open hallway, within, technical, more, science driven, engineering, etc. And you're trying to keep that open. And so in life, we do have to ask ourselves, how many hallways, how many open doors do we want to have open all
Right.
the time and passing through? And at some point, you have to do some evaluation to decide when is the right time to close a door. I go back to data where it's like you need to look at where you want to go with that particular opportunity, what that might look like. And if it really excites you and there's so much to grow and learn, and there's a potential where that might be what you want your bigger focus to be, the biggest hallway of all of your open hallways, then don't shut that door. You're going to need to figure out in this temporary time how you can, hustle to get as much, knowledge and studying in to do that exam to keep that hallway open. If that's a hallway that you want to explore, that you want to grow in, and you might want to make it be your main, hallway in life. But if it's not, you have to take a moment, really center yourself and think about what does the future look like in that particular endeavor. And then same goes to over here, maybe you're full-time. In my case, I was full-time aerospace engineer. I went to school for it. I was going to continue to do that. But at a certain point, I went through my summit method as I do. I go through the summit event every 3 months. It's part of, my process. It's part of my book. I did a summit event, and all of the data stacked that it was time for me to quit my job. It was time for me to leave the aerospace engineering industry and do something else, to jump headfirst into the unknown, take a short sabbatical and write this book and become a muralist, and to really pursue music and to start in it. I have an entrepreneur business that I've been building up with my husband. So I closed a door. That was a big door. That was my main hallway in life. But I did the analysis and I really did the mental thought process of deciding to change my main hallway and close that door. So I tell you this, analogy because I can't make this decision for you, obviously, but I'm trying to give you some advice that you should really just take a look at these opportunities in front of you and ask yourself, what do you see beyond, this first, doorway, if you will? Are there bigger things that you want to explore and do in life? If the answer is yes, then you have to try to figure out how to, get that exam in so that you don't close that door and you keep that creative door open to get more data so that you eventually get to decide, yes, this creative thing is definitely my number one or my number two. And you start having this balance between engineering and creativity that you can control because you're gathering data one step of the way and making sure to evaluate, is the right time to close a door if it's becoming too burdensome.
That's beautifully explained. Thank you so much, Alikai, for answering that. And thank you so much, Ishita, for putting up a question. I really love when community members do participate in the podcast. So make sure I say this to every listener out there, make sure to join the community and ask your questions. And believe me, no questions are silly. Okay. Each and every question which you are facing in your life is the biggest question, and all the questions are truly welcomed on this podcast. So make sure to ask your questions. So join the community, and that's the last message which I would like to give. However, Alikai, I have this one request to make, and as I have already mentioned that in the initial part of this episode, and that is we might get to hear one of your originals from yourself. If you could sing for us, that would be just amazing. What are your thoughts on that?
I can do that. I can totally do that.
Wonderful. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'll sing a song, but before I sing my song and we change subject, I just want to let you know I'm Aliki Samone. Grab my book. There'll be links that will sent out, but you can go to conquermysummit.com, and that's where you can contact me. My email's there. We've got links to the book or other worksheets and whatnot, and ways to help you out, with the process of executing your own summit method and summit event. So check that out. Follow me on social media, Instagram or TikTok, Aliki Samone Books. And I'd love to hear from you and see how everything's going. All right. But musically, I'll play you the introduction of my favorite song. It's a tale told 1,000 times, more than love entwined, racing down the course of a life, never giving up through any strife. It's a summer love through all seasons. Baby, don't you know you're the reason, love?
Wow, that was amazing. And the way you sung it, that was so good. And I'm now eagerly waiting for your album to come out so that I can definitely listen to the entire song. And also, the listeners are very excited. So make sure to let me know when the song is out, and I'll put that in my community as well. And people would be really excited to listen to your song as well. So
Absolutely.
that's
Thank
that's
you.
really amazing. Although, so this one will be the last question, Alikai, and this I ask to each and every expert who comes on this show. And first of all, thank you so much for singing and accepting that request. So huge amount of gratitude to you. Thank you so much. And the question which I would like to ask is, if people wants to get connected with you in this virtual world of internet, how can they find you?
Fantastic. So, on the music side, I keep Aliki Samone as my both author name and my music name. So you can find me on Spotify and Apple Music and whatnot as Aliki Samone if you're looking to find my music. And you can also find me from my, mentoring and coaching and author world as Aliki Samone. I like to keep it simple. But
Wonderful.
on social media, I separate those as Aliki Samone Books and Aliki Samone Music, or just Aliki Samone. So follow me on either side, depending on what you're interested in. I like to do a lot of posts here. I'm going to do some more lives on just some of my music, and hopefully some lives on sharing messages on next steps, how to find, mental tools and your purpose and mental growth statements. So go on social media, give me a follow. I'd love that. And if social media is not your game, just go to my website, www.conqueryoursummit.com. And there's all kinds of information there to help you out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alakai, for sharing that information. listeners, I know that's a lot to take in. So each and everything will be available in the description. So you are just a click away from Aliki Samone. Make sure to give her a follow. Make sure to send her the questions, as she is very much open to answer each and every one of them. So make sure to do that. And if you want to get her first reply, then make sure to mention that you have listened to her on Personality Development Podcast. Uh, with that being said, thank you so much for listening to this entire episode. And if you feel that this episode and this podcast adds value in your life, then make sure to share it with your loved ones. This is Aditya Mehta along with Aliki Samone signing off from this episode. See you in the next one. Till then, peace.